Today, we'll be sharing about our research about anti-corruption policies. This topic is really important, especially when we talk about good governance and how corruption continues to affect a lot of developing countries. And syempre, kasama na dito yung ating bansang Pilipinas. Let's start with public sector corruption. Isa siya sa main obstacles to efficient governance in many developing nations. Pero, ano nga ba yung corruption? Basically, it's when someone in government, like an elected official, violates rules or regulations for their personal gains. Hindi para tumulong sa bayan, kundi para makinabang sa posisyon nila. This could be through bribery, favoritism, misuse of public funds, or even bending rules for someone's benefit. Sinasabi nga din sa slide na it's an instance in which an elected politician or bureaucracy violates a regulation for private gain. In short, ginagamit nila yung mga kapangyarihan nila for selfish reasons. Now, what's more alarming is there's a lot of evidence na corruption is widespread sa ARM industries. These include areas like land, forest management, mining, and water resources. These sectors are very prone to corruption kasi malaki yung resources na involved sa kanila. And sometimes, kulang sa transparency and accountability. Kaya kapag may kakulangan sa monitoring, madali lang para sa ilang individuals to exploit the system for personal or political benefit para makagain sila ng something or money.
So, purpose of the study. Etong study naman na to, about to sa pagbuo ng isang effective ng anti-corruption policy para sa mga multi-nation organization. Na ang goal nito na mabawasan yung financial losses at maprotektahan yung company reputation at also yung maiwasan yung illegal problem na dulot ng unethical practices. So, developing a strong anti-corruption policy. So, ang unang goal kung paano makakagawa ng effective na policy laban sa corruption. Sa ganito pala, mababawasan ng problema katulad ng pagkawala ng pera, pagkasira ng reputasyon ng company, at illegal na kaso na maaaring makadulot maaaring kaharapin ng company nyo.
Hello everyone, I will tackle this topic about objectives is related to understanding and improving anti-corruption efforts. The first bullet is meaning to say public awareness. Learn how people opinions about corruption affect policies and how we get more citizens involved in fighting corruption. The second bullet is digital tools. Study how technology like online platform, blockchain, and data analysis to help stop corruption and make system more transparency and efficient. The third bullet is educational and campaigns. See how anti-corruption campaigns and training help public officials, businesses, and citizens act with integrity to avoid corruption behavior. And this is the second slide of objectives. The first bullet meaning to say international corporations is understand how countries work together to fight corruption globally and whether international agreements like UNCAC are effective. And the second bullet is law and regulation, and check if current laws are working to reduce corruption and spot any weak areas that need to fixing. So third bullet is meaning to say leadership role is find out how political leaders and their dedication to anti-corruption policies influence their success in stopping corruption activities. This is the part of significant of the study. The first one is better government, meaning to say fighting corruption help the governments and organization make fair and smart decisions, not ones based on the selfish interest. The second is more investment, meaning to say when a corruption is reduced, the country becomes more stable and attractive to investors, which help grow the company. The third one is fairness for everyone, is anti-corruption efforts make sure money is used for everyone's benefit, not stolen by corruption people.
So, dito naman yung structure of the project. Case study of anti-corruption policy. Sa chapter 1 naman, in-explain yung background, purpose, objective, significant, and the structure of the body. Sa chapter 2 naman, literal review, yung mga defines key terms and review existing anti-corruption policy and identify the challenges, opportunities. Sa chapter 3 naman, yung data collection and analysis. Ito naman yung mga cover ng case studies and data collection method, and yung analysis of findings. And yung chapter 4 naman, yung conclusion and recommendation. Summary key insight and provides actionable solutions. And the last is yung final sector natin, yung reference and appendices. Dito naman ito yung include source and support materials. This structure approach ensure a comprehensive anti-corruption policy, identifying both weaknesses and possible improvement.
Dito naman sa task, I carefully picked and distributed each one of the tasks as a leader. And syempre, dinistribute ko to kung saan, alam kung saan sila mas mapapadali. And syempre, each one of us nag-agree sa mga tasks na napunta sa kanila. Now, let's move on to definition of terms. Number 1 is corruption. Corruption is when someone in power acts dishonestly for personal gain. This could involve bribery, fraud, stealing public money, or even abusing their authority just to benefit themselves. Kahit na dapat yung priority nila is yung mga tao and yung public good. Yung pinaka-core ng corruption is selfishness. Ginagamit nila yung posisyon nila para sa sarili nilang interest. Now, let's talk about ERM. Basically, ERM is the process of protecting, conserving, and using natural resources wisely, like water, land, forests, and minerals, so that these resources are still available para sa mga next generation. Kumbaga, it's about balancing development and sustainability. We want to use our natural resources in a way that supports growth, pero dapat hindi ito nauubos or nasisira permanently. And the problem is, when corruption gets involved sa mga ERM processes, it becomes a big threat. Instead of protecting the environment, some officials or companies exploit it for profit, even if alam naman nilang magiging kosto sa long-term damage. Now, for number 3, the anti-corruption policies. These are the rules, laws, and strategies created to prevent, detect, and punish corruptions, whether sa government man yan, sa businesses, or other organizations. Ang goal nito is to create a system that promotes honesty, transparency, and accountability. So, for example, nag-i-include dito yung things like requiring officials to declare their assets, protecting whistleblowers, or setting up independent bodies to investigate corruption cases. Anti-corruption policies are important because they help build trust. Trust in the system, trust in the leadership, and in the decisions being made. Now, let's talk about one of the most well-known frameworks used to fight corruption globally, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, or the FCPA. This law was passed in the United States, but its impact goes beyond U.S. borders, especially for companies and governments involved in international business. The FCPA aims to prevent corruption and bribery involving foreign officials. I will just give two main components of the FCPA. Number one is anti-bribery provisions. This prohibits companies or individuals from offering or giving bribes to foreign officials to gain unfair business advantages. Number two, books and records. Companies are required to keep accurate financial records ay hindi nila pwedeng itago under the table. Hindi nila pwedeng itago yung mga under the table deals and or false entries. Next, let's talk about UNCAC or the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. Ito ay isang legally binding treaty, meaning lahat ng countries na pumirma rito ay committed na labanan yung mga corruptions sa sarili nilang bansa. Isa sa pinaka-importanting feature ng UNCAC ay ang asset recovery. Ibig sabihin kapag may ninakaw sila ng public funds dahil sa corruption, kailangan nila ito or obligated silang ibalik ito sa rightful owners, usually sa government or sa taong bayan. So, overall, ang UNCAC ay isang global agreement para palakasin ang laban kontra corruption at siguraduhin na may cooperation between countries to make justice happen. Now, let's go local. Dito sa Pilipinas, meron tayong Anti-Graft and Corruption Practices Act, which is designed to criminalize bribery, fraud, and abuse of power by public officials. Ibig sabihin kapag ang isang government official ay tumanggap ng suhol, nag-misuse ng public funds, or use their position for personal gain, pasok siya sa violation ng batas nito. Ang strong legal framework tulad nito ay very important. It's actually the cornerstone of any effective anti-corruption policy. Kasi kahit may transparency at good governance practices, kung walang batas to back them up, walang concrete way to hold people accountable. Kaya napakalaga na hindi lang umiiral ang batas, pero na-implement ng maayos with fair investigations and proper consequences. Now, for challenges, number one, meron tayong weak enforcement mechanism. Ibig sabihin, may mga batas nga, pero kulang naman sa proper implementation. Minsan, walang sapat na resources, kulang sa trained investigators, or mabagal ng legal process. Second one is the lack of political will. Let's be honest, kung yung mga nasa position mismo yung ayaw magpatupad ng pagbabago, walang mangyayari. Change won't happen kung walang commitment from the top. And lastly, resistance from powerful interest group. May mga tao or organizations na ayaw maapektuhan ng mga illegal or corrupt practices nila. So, they try to block reforms or even manipulate the system to protect themselves. Recognizing these challenges is the first step to addressing them. Now, for the opportunities, one big opportunity is the advancement of digital technology. With new tools and systems, mas madali na ngayon to track and monitor yung mga government transactions. Digital platforms can enhance transparency kasi mas visible na yung flow ng funds, ng contracts, and decision-making processes. Halimbawa, kapag online yung mga bidding system or public records, anyone can access and review them, so mas mahirap itago yung mga anomalya. And at the same time, these technologies reduce opportunities for fraud. Mas kaunti yung mga face-to-face transactions, which means less chances of under-the-table deals or bribery. So with the help of digital solutions, we can create a more transparent, efficient, and accountable system. Now, let's move on to trends. Una, we're seeing a growing use of e-governance. Government are now shifting to digital platforms to manage services, permits, and public bidding, and more. This shift makes processes faster, more efficient, and less prone to manipulation. Pangalawa naman, maraming bansa including our country, the Philippines, are now adapting to open data initiatives. Ibig sabihin yung government data is being made public and accessible. So anyone, including us, as the citizen, the media, including researchers, can check and monitor how funds are used and how decisions are made. And lastly naman, there's a trend towards stricter compliance measures. Organizations and public offices are being required to follow tighter rules, undergo audits, and maintain transparency in their operations.
So, dito naman tayo sa case ng race-based approach. So, initial case that simply having anti-corruption law is not enough. A strategic and target approach is necessary to combat corruption in the most affected sector. And Philippines can adopt similar method to address corruption in the healthcare and the other public service sector.
And this is the part of case study number 2, corruption and anti-corruption strategies, issues, and case study from developing countries. Simple explanation for this is as example from developing countries to understand the problem they face with corruption and the strategies they use to stop it. These real-life cases shows the works and what doesn't in the fight against corruptions. And this is the part of case number 3, which is focusing on understanding corruption and social norms, a case study in natural resources management. In simple terms, this study will likely explore how corruption happens and how social custom or beliefs might play a role in the management of natural resources in a real-world situation.
Ito naman yung case number 4 ay countering corruption in the Philippines, prototype, and enforcing measures. Ang case study na to tungkol sa mga paraan upang labanan yung corruption sa Pilipinas. Gumagamit ito ng prototype, which is yung model solution, and yung enforcing measure na action to strengthen anti-corruption effort. So, what do you mean prototype? Ito naman yung mga new strategy or model being tested to prevent corruption. When you say enforcing measure, naman yung mga step na ginagawa upang masiguro o ma-sure yung effective yung mga solution at hindi lang siya panandalian.
And this is the part of Break the Corruption Chain, the Philippines Anti-Corruption Initiative. The first bullet is meaning to say every government aims for a public service that is excellent and honest. The second bullet is the main focus of investigation is how well the Philippine government is putting into action and keeping track of its various anti-corruption efforts. And this is the part of data presentation with 2 cases studies focusing on corruption within the health sector and strategies to fight it. The case study number 1 is tackling corruption in the health sector. In quotes, the first bullet, this is focusing on using a rights-based approach which means identifying and dealing with the weak areas before the problem arises. The second bullet, experts say corruption in healthcare leads to a serious consequences like lack of proper equipment and life-saving medicines. The third bullet, if corruption isn't controlled, it harms patients and in the overall healthcare system. And the case study number 2, the title Corruption and Anti-Corruption Strategies, in quotes, the first bullet, this case look how the transparency is being open and honest helps fight for corruption. And the second bullet, in a major problem, but it can be reduced with transparency, accountability, and persistent effort.
So here the data presentation, case 3, understanding corruption and and social norms. So, according to Robert Clifford, corruption is not just about a law, but also about what society accept a behavior or normal behavior. So, sa case number 4 naman, yung countering corruption in the Philippines, according to former Ombudsman Chonchita Carpio Morales, corruption is the biggest threat to Philippine democratic business because it destroyed public trust in the government and deprived people of essential service.
And this is the 4 major case study and how the system identifies, prevent, detects, and respond to corruption. Case study number 1, corruption in the health sectors, and the problem means weak monitoring and procurement lead to bribery and poor services in the protection who set the rules but they're not always followed. In detection, audits notice shady transactions, and response is governments try to tighten laws and raise penalties. In this case study number 2, election and fraud and bribery. In the problem, both buying and cheating ruin fair elections. In protections, elections law exists but they're not fully enforced. In detection, investigations are often driven by media exposure. Response, legal action is a possible but punishment is consistent. In case study number 3, public infrastructure corruption. In a problem, officials inflate costs and misuse funds in public projects. In protection, they are public laws but they often bypass. In detection, Anti-Corruption Commission look into it. Response, some get prosecuted but political influence delays justice. In case study number 4, corporate bribery. This is the problem is private firms break procurement and anti-bribery rules. In protection, local and international anti-corruption rules apply. In detection, internal audits are weak, causing delay. In response is meaning to say corporations are hit with big penalties while individuals may avoid harsh punishment. In short, this system to fight corruption exists enforcement in open weak. This is the need of stronger law, transparency, and consistent action remains as crucial every sector.
So, justification of the collection method. The study of anti-corruption policy was carefully chosen based on its ability to prevent, detect, and punish the corruption. The data used in this study is important to access, relevant to the goals. Data such as corruption rates, legal enforcement, transparency, measure, and public publication ay mahalaga para masuri kung paano gagana ang anti-corruption policy. Next is ethical framework. A strong ethical framework is necessary to encourage people to report corruption and siguraduhin na patas ang proseso ng anti-corruption policy. And also, confidentiality.